Hey guys, Michael here. Well, I've actually been so busy out here in the shop making ornaments and such, I need to do a deep clean on my M1. So today I'm going to share with you how I perform a deep clean on the M1, including cleaning all the sensors on here. Also taking apart the laser head and cleaning, there's a Z-axis sensor inside there that you have to clean. People are having trouble with that thing dropping and falling out. So you have to keep it clean on the inside as well. I'll show you how to do that. Also, I picked up a couple of accessories from xTool. One of them is their material pins that you can use on honeycombs, not only on the riser base for xTool's honeycomb, but also on any third-party honeycomb as long as it is metal. I'm going to show you what these look like here at the end. So stick with me. Let's get to it. So the first thing I want to do is actually open up the M1. And I actually had the base plate removed here, but I have a lot of dust and stuff back here, if you can see this. That's actually a lot of dust and debris from engraving and cutting, and you want to get that out of there. And what I found that works best is if you have a small nozzle vacuum, such as something like this, you can actually get in there with a vacuum and vacuum this out. Then you can follow up with a rag and wipe it down and get it out with a wet rag. So the first thing I'm going to do is vacuum out what I can get. Okay, now that it's vacuumed out, I'm going to use my microfiber cloth and some isopropyl alcohol, wet down the cloth and start rubbing everything down to get the rest of the particles out of there. I actually have a spray bottle full of the alcohol that I can use and spray on my rag. I find that easier to do than actually pouring it on here. And I can take this, again, and just start wiping everything down. If you haven't seen my other video on cleaning, I show how to do that after I had a fire. I had to clean this out, but that's more of a light cleaning, which is what I'm actually starting off with here. And then I'm going to go into the deep cleaning and start cleaning all the sensors here in a second. So don't forget to also clean the outside of your M1. This actually gets a lot of smoke up here, so make sure you clean that really well. And don't forget the bottom of the lid. Next thing I'm going to do is actually flip this over. Before I do that, let me go ahead and move this back to the home position. That way when I flip it over from right to left, this won't slam against the side as I flip it over. Another thing you might want to do is take some painter's tape and tape this lid down so that it doesn't flap around. With it flipped over, you can go ahead and wipe everything else down. Be careful of the camera, pay attention to that. Also be careful of the fan. You don't want to actually damage the fan when you're wiping it down. And slowly pull out the gantry. And I'm going to wipe down the bars as well, one on the bottom right here and one right here about in the middle that the laser head rolls on. Okay, so now I'm going to focus around the laser area. I can take my Q-tip and spray a little bit on there. And to clean the laser head itself, or the laser lens, you can take off the air assist if you have it. This one's the xTool air assist that's magnetic. Move it out of the way. Take your Q-tip that has a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on there and cleans that lens. flip it over to a dry spot and just kind of dry it off. You just want to be real careful not to scratch that lens. I've seen people who actually use a lens cloth that you would use for your eyeglasses. You can actually wrap that on top of your Q-tip and use that to clean it, but you'll also need to dry it off as well. Lens cleaner works really well for the lens and the camera lens as well. So with that cleaned off, I can actually clean off this. If you have one, go ahead and clean this off. Flip it over, clean the inside, and flip it back. And I'm going to put that back on there just to protect that laser lens as I'm cleaning everything else. You can take your rag now and you can clean everything else off that you can get to underneath here. Now, as you can see here, this is actually pretty clean because I do this not regularly, but I actually did it not too long ago, just wiping it down, cleaning the laser lens. Okay, so now that I have everything wiped down like I would normally do in a normal quick clean, next thing I want to focus on are the sensors, and that includes 2 sensors inside this laser head and 1 sensor over here on the back left side. Now it's hard to see, but over here on the left hand side upside down there is a horseshoe shaped sensor. You'll want to take a Q-tip, moisten that Q-tip, and take this and rub it inside the sensor just like this. Okay, so back here in the back, all right, now it's hard to see this, but back here in the back, I'm actually rubbing inside that Q-tip, or rubbing inside that sensor. That's making sure there's no dust and debris in there. Now, I don't get a lot of dirt out of that one. However, I do get a lot of dirt out of the other 2. And the other 2 are located in the laser head, but I need to flip my machine over so that I can show you that and access it. So with my machine flipped over, there are some screws on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side. You'll need to take a small Phillips head screwdriver and remove those screws. All right, once you take those screws out, you can take this top plate off of here. You can just take your hand in the back and just kind of lift it up. Just like that. Now this may be really dirty, so you'll need to clean this off as well. Once you do that, you'll put it off to the side. Pay attention to the orientation. There's a gap on the front right here. That's to allow it to fit around this fan right here, and there's no gap in the back. So this is the way it's going to come off. And then we have access to one of the sensors, which is actually right here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to clean that sensor, but before I do, I'm going to take this fan out of the way, again, using the same screwdriver. This fan only has 3 screws on purpose. So now that I have those screws out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and clean the fan, and you'll clean it the same way you've done with everything else. You'll take your Q-tip and you can moisten it, and you just want to carefully rub on the fan blades. Once you got that all clean, you can take your Q-tip and kind of spin around the sides and let the fan spin with it to clean the inside edges of that. And you'll want to do the same thing to the bottom side of the fan. You'll have to hold the fan still with one finger as you do this. Now I'm actually going to leave my fan connected. I'm not going to pull the wire out. But just notice the label of the fan goes down. So when you put it back, make sure the label is pointing down. Now here is where we start talking about the sensors inside the laser head. And this is where you need to be careful. So right here on this side, there's one horseshoe shaped sensor. that sensor actually, when it goes against this metal bar actually blocks that sensor and tells it to stop, and that's the home position. To clean that, again, you're going to put a little bit of alcohol on here and rub that. Now, to get to the bottom of it, this is the Z-axis sensor. This is a little bit trickier. Be careful doing this. Let me get this Q-tip out of the way. Now, again, the fan is undone. The screws are out of the way. You just want to be careful and lift this up. Now, as you pull this up, go slow, because you have a couple of things attached. If you'll notice, there's a ribbon cable starting to come out of the back there. Now, you'll kind of lift it up, and there we go. So I kind of pulled it out and up like that, enough to where that ribbon cable just kind of comes out of this groove that's here. Now, I'm not going to pick it up any more than this, because there's actually some sensitive ribbons. This one here is sensitive, and that one there. You definitely don't want to break them, mess them up, because I don't know how hard it is to actually find replacement ribbons. But with this up in this position here, this is where you can get to cleaning. You can take your Q-tip, you can put some alcohol in there, and you can start wiping down the ribbons. Not necessarily needed, yet I do that. I clean as much as I can in here, including the sensors. Now, let me see if I can get a better shot of the sensors here. So these are the two horseshoe shaped sensors. You'll want to take your Q-tip with rubbing alcohol on there and kind of clean out the inside like this, and clean out the inside like this. Now, while I'm in here, I try to clean down as much as I can touch without actually pulling on this, because again, I don't want to pull on these ribbons and potentially mess something up. But I will clean as much as I can in here as far as a deep clean goes. Also, there's a piece of metal bar right here. I clean on both sides of that metal bar, because that's actually what triggers this sensor underneath. So I go ahead and clean that down. I wipe this down with my Q-tip and just kind of get what I can see with the Q-tip. I also take my rag and clean the inside casing as much as I can without damaging anything. Just try to be gentle and take your time. Okay, once you're satisfied that everything's clean, you'll need to carefully put this back in its home position. So this home motherboard actually goes in the slot where that ribbon cable comes from. So you want to carefully, kind of at the same time, this is going to be hard to show you on a camera, but you want to carefully slide this in and this in at the same time to get it back in the position where it came from. Now, what I find sometimes is that ribbon, it wants to stay out, and so I use my screwdriver to sort of help it along to get it in there at the same time. So I'm having trouble getting that ribbon in there. It has to lay flat to fit through that slot. So I'm going to a flathead screwdriver that has dried paint on it. But I'm going to take this and kind of push up on that ribbon right here at the corner to see if I can make it go in there. There we go. Now, another ribbon you want to be careful of is this one right here in the middle. As you can see, it has a lot of folds in it. I just kind of gently put it back in its place, and then I can lay this down flat. This needs to lay down kind of on its own. There is a little bit of spring in it because of those ribbon cables want to push it back up. You don't want to force it down there, that's for sure. So now that I'm happy with the way it is, I can take my fan, again, label side down, put it back in position, and start putting the screws back in. Make sure you line up the holes because it's going to go through the fan, through that motherboard and into the body of the laser head to actually tighten it down. And you don't want to strip it out, so use a hand screwdriver, don't use a power screwdriver. You'll be able to feel that you're not cross-threading the threads. Now sometimes it may not want to line up. What I do is kind of use my screwdriver and just gently push on the sides of this sensor or this plug here so that I can move the motherboard just a little bit, nudge it one way or the other to make sure the screw drops in place. So now that that's all in place, next thing to do is put the fan guard back on. Again, the slotted part goes towards the front of it. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and clean this bar right here. This bar actually tells this laser head when to stop moving left, and that actually triggers that top sensor. So now that my M1's clean, let me share with you a couple of things I picked up from xTool's website. They actually have a Black Friday sale going on. I think it's still going on now. Well, they had their 3mm basswood in stock and on sale, so I was able to pick up this 18-piece set. But what I'm more excited about is trying out their material pins. These material pins are actually universal. You can use them on any honeycomb, including the riser-based honeycomb for the M1, the honeycomb for the D1, and any other brand honeycomb, as long as it is a metal base so that these can use their magnetic ability to connect to it. So let me share with you real quick what these look like. So inside we get a little instruction manual, it looks like. Overview of the item, list of items, and how you use it. And it just looks like it has pictures of it in multiple languages. This is what it looks like on the inside. I need to open this up. So these are really strong magnets, so I'm glad they put it in this packaging so not to mess up any cell phone or whatever in case you put this box on it. So let's take one out. So one thing, I thought this was actually going to be like a piece of rubber or something, rubber coating, but it is actually powder coated. And this is the magnetic part. This is the non-magnetic part. So here I have a third-party honeycomb. This is made by ComGrow. So I have a piece of basswood. This has actually been used by cutting different ornaments. The way these work is if this is magnetic, you can slip these in these holes and it actually just holds the material down. Now this grid here is a little bit smaller than these. However, since this grid is flexible, I'm able to put them in there and it doesn't go anywhere. It actually locks it in place and it's going to pull it down. Especially helpful if this is warped. Let's say over here this is warped. If I take this pin and put this pin in here, now it's not warped anymore. It doesn't pop up. This is actually holding it down. So it's actually good to hold down the warped areas and just to hold it in place when you're laser engraving. Now these only work with a metal grid, not an aluminum grid. So keep that in mind. So one thing I forgot to share with you, and I'll have the M1 turn around so you see the back side, is cleaning the fan exhaust port. Now while you have it on the inside, you want to clean the fan blade as best you can with those Q-tips. You'll want to clean the back side as best you can, including this port right here. So I did go a step further and I actually cut out the plastic grid that's covering this fan opening because I wanted as little airflow restriction as I can. So I did cut that out of the way. Sticking my hand in here, I can't even touch the fan. The fan is in there at a 45-degree angle. It's hard to get to, and I'm not worried about anybody sticking their fingers in here. So do that at your own risk, but I found that to be helpful in my case. So also when it comes to cleaning, you're going to clean your base plate and your prisms. Now I didn't show that because I don't really use the base plate that often when I'm cutting. I have another method. I use this with the base plate removed. But if you're using your base plate and you're cutting on prisms on top of your aluminum plate or on top of your aluminum foil, they have a lot of sticky residue. That's from the glues and the oils inside the wood. That stuff's hard to come off, even with the isopropyl alcohol. One thing that works really well is vinegar. Vinegar is just a natural cleanser. It actually gets rid of rust and all kinds of stuff. So one thing you can do is you have an old cookie sheet or something. If you take that vinegar and pour it in that cookie sheet, and you can put your metal tray in it, put your prisms in it, and let them soak for 30 minutes or so, that stuff comes right off. Another thing you can do is if you have an aluminum sheet, you can actually lay down some paper towels and pour that vinegar on top of the paper towels. Just let it soak in just enough where it doesn't flow everywhere, but the paper towels are wet to hold the vinegar on top of that aluminum plate. Doing that actually will take care of it as well. Leave it there for about 30 minutes and yeah, you'll wipe right off. It's amazing what that vinegar does. So it actually does a better job at cleaning the residue than the isopropyl alcohol does. So as you know, I don't have the riser base for my M1. It's just the original M1. I don't have any accessories for it except for the original rotary tool. I don't have the RA2 Pro. I don't have the riser base, but I did buy these material pins. I'm excited to try these out on my other lasers with the actual honeycomb. I'm excited to give these a shot. Hopefully this video is helpful to you and show you how to do a deep cleaning all the sensors. Make sure you get all 3 of them. Again, they're horseshoe shaped, and you just want to take some alcohol and just kind of rub in and out of the horseshoe and all around the sides of it. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this cleaning video. Was it helpful to you? Did you notice anything I need to do different, or give me some advice on something I can do to improve my cleaning process? Also, let me know in the comments, what do you want to see next? Are you more interested in tumbler videos, which I don't do a lot of? What about maybe how do you use XCS more? How do you design an ornament or something like that? So as far as XCS goes, what I'm going to do is next time is do start to finish XCS Christmas ornament and cut it in the 3mm basswood that I purchased from xTool. I'm going to leave in the description down below a link to all of xTool's materials, including the pins and their basswood. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. That is very helpful to me, and it helps me grow my channel, having more subscribers, and gives me a little bit more incentive to keep going. So I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.